you date someone who's trans?
No.
Would you date someone who's black?
Maybe.
Would you date someone who's fat?
Maybe.
Would you date someone who's disabled?
Maybe.
Now, honestly, I don't know what your answer is to those questions, but I've met a surprising number of people who would say no to all or at least some of them. Their argument is that it's just a preference and that you can't control who you're attracted to.
So it's not just an innate sexual preference then? Riley, you're speaking as though you can control who you're attracted to. By that logic, gay men are attracted to other men by choice. Do you believe this?
I think most of the time that this is brought up, it's in regards to race. I'll link to a couple really good videos in the description about racial dating preferences, but in this video, I want to talk about our other biases.
Those being gender identity, size, and ability.
Let's start with trans people. Would you date a trans person, honestly? Think about it for a second.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Got your answer?
Yep. My answer is no, as stated previously.
Well, if you said no, I'm sorry, but that's pretty discriminatory.
Why, I never.
Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you're a horrible person who hates trans people. There was probably a time in my life when I said I wouldn't date a trans person. But since then, I've thought critically about it and changed my mind. I could sit here and show you photos of conventionally attractive trans people. There are definitely trans people who you would never know are trans unless they told you, because they pass for cis. And that might convince some of you. But I think arguing that you would only like a trans person if you didn't know they were trans is a poor argument.
Why is it a poor argument? My sexual preference dictates that I am only attracted to women. As such, I do not find men who have transitioned to women, and therefore women who have male genitalia, to be attractive. This is most likely due to the innate biological processes at work within my cranium, urging me to seek out the most appropriate mate to reproduce and spread my genetic legacy. I do not find trans women, they being men who have transitioned to women, to be sexually attractive for the same reasons that I do not find other men to be attractive, because I cannot reproduce with them.
I think you could be attracted to any trans person, whether they pass or not.
Well, that's fine. You may be attracted to other trans people, whether they pass or not, but I am not. I simply do not find trans people sexually attractive. Now, that's not to say that others don't, but I simply do not.
I think the main concern that people have in regards to dating a trans person is that they won't have the genitals that they expect. Because we associate penises with men and vaginas with women, some people think they could never date a trans man with a vagina or a trans woman with a penis. But I think that people are more than their genitals. I think that you could feel attraction to someone without knowing what's between their legs.
I agree. I think there's an important distinction to be made here, that of sexual attraction versus emotional attraction. Sexual attraction is, from what I have found, entirely biological. It is the force that drives us to seek out an appropriate partner to reproduce. Emotional attraction, on the other hand, is much more complex. In my opinion, you can feel emotional attraction to anyone you form a strong emotional bond with. This is not necessarily sexual in nature. I suppose emotional attraction is synonymous with love. Love is indeed a difficult concept to describe, but I believe the ancient Greeks did a marvelous job of this with the structure of their language. The Greeks had 4 words to describe love: agape, eros, philia, and storge. Eros is the kind of love that exists between sexual partners, most often described as sexual passion, lust, if you will. The other 3 words are used to describe different forms of emotional attraction to an individual. Agape is most commonly used to describe the overwhelming love that the God of Christianity and Judaism has for his people, a sort of unconditional, unending love that a creator has for his creation. Philia is synonymous with affectionate regard, or friendship, felt among peers, typically denoting the emotional bonds between friends. Finally, storge is most commonly used to describe the love that parents have for their children, described as the common or natural empathy parents have for their offspring. So yes, Riley, I agree. You can feel attraction to someone despite their genitalia, only the attraction may be more emotional than sexual in nature.
And if you were to say that you're only attracted to people with vaginas or people with penises, it really feels like you're reducing people just to their genitals. You're kind of objectifying them, but you're thinking of them more as genitals than objects, so I guess you're kind of genitalifying them? Anyway, my point is, we have implicit biases that we were raised with or that we developed over time, and they can be hard to get rid of. And I think this can be especially prominent within the queer community. Gay men often pride themselves on being disgusted by vaginas, and the same goes for lesbian women with penises.
Should they not be? I mean, if one feels attraction for the same sex, I would expect them to be repulsed by the concept of sexual intercourse with a member of the opposite sex. The inverse exists for straight people.
It's difficult because some queer people have built their sexual identities on these repulsions, but I don't think they're innate at all.
I disagree. Basic sexual attraction is driven entirely by biology, hormones, and the like. Now, I will concede that preferences can be learned or even developed, but I believe that at the baseline, it is your genes driving your sexual attraction to another person.
If you met someone who was extremely attractive, had a great personality, but didn't have the genitals that you wanted, you might be surprised to find that it isn't a deal breaker. As someone who is trans and gay, sometimes people ask me with a very accusatory tone if I would date a girl with a penis. Because there's this stereotype that trans lesbians are just predatory cis men creeping on cis women. But the thing is, I absolutely could be attracted to a woman with a penis. I could be attracted to any woman, cis or trans.
That's fine. We live in a free country, one where you have the rights to express your attraction to anyone you so please. Though your sexual preferences do not align with my own, they are yours nonetheless, and you are entitled to them. As such, I expect the same amount of respect for my sexual preferences that I have given to you. I, again, do not find trans people to be sexually attractive once I have learned that they are trans, but those are my sexual preferences, that I am entitled to just as you are.
If I find you attractive, I don't care what you have down there. But we know that sexual orientations are more innate than learned. They're more nature and less nurture.
Wait, what? But just a couple of minutes ago you said...
It's difficult because some queer people have built their sexual identities on these repulsions, but I don't think they're innate at all.
I may just be confused, but you seem to be directly contradicting what you just said a couple of minutes ago. You also said that my sexual orientation is not discriminatory when earlier you said that not being attracted to trans people, i.e. non-cis people, is discriminatory. So which is it?
Gay conversion therapy has been proven not to work, but you can unlearn your own prejudices. It just takes time and conscious effort.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying now. You're saying that you can consciously change your sexual preferences. I agree. It is entirely possible to change the type of person that you are sexually and emotionally attracted to. Riley goes on to discuss attraction to fat and disabled people, a topic that I unfortunately do not have the time to discuss here, so I'll skip to the end.
Now, if you're not attracted to someone, you're not attracted to them. I'm not going to tell you that you have to be attracted to this fat person or that trans person or that disabled person.
But you are. In the very beginning of this video, you said that if one is not attracted to a trans person, a black person, a fat person, or a disabled person, then the person in question is unjustly discriminatory.
The more you work at unlearning your own prejudices, the more you'll be able to see people from these groups as people rather than tired stereotypes.
I do see them as people, Riley, and I don't have to be sexually attracted to someone to see that that person is a person.
Unlearning our own biases doesn't happen overnight, and I don't have a step-by-step instruction guide for you. But I think if you can accept that these prejudices exist in all of us, even you can identify them when they come up and work to change how you think about them.
But I don't want to. Thus far, you've failed to provide a good reason as to why I should be ashamed at my sexual preferences. You have failed to show me that it is morally wrong for me to prefer straight women above all others in terms of a partner.
It will most likely be a long, slow process, but I think it's worth it. Because these dating preferences are ultimately harmful to people who don't fit into your box of what a conventionally attractive person looks like.
How are my dating preferences harmful exactly? Is it because I don't want to ultimately form a sexual relationship with people outside of my preferential bracket? Please consider the different types of love that I discussed earlier. Riley, just because I don't find you sexually attractive doesn't mean that we can't be friends.
It makes people feel isolated, alone, and unwanted to hear that they're universally unattractive to people. I don't think there's anyone out there who somebody doesn't find attractive.
I agree. This doesn't mean that I'm morally wrong for not being attracted to that person. Let them be attracted to each other. Everyone wins.
We're sold this image of the conventionally attractive person, but in reality, all kinds of people around the world are constantly dating, having sex, finding people attractive, getting married. It's not only the conventionally attractive who find love or have sex. So by working on ourselves to dispel that idea, we can make the world a more welcoming and loving place for everybody, no matter how they look.
That sounds lovely, Riley. I would personally enjoy such a world. Look, Riley, I hope you'll consider what I've said here. I am someone who doesn't necessarily agree with you, and that's fine. We don't have to agree. But I do like to engage in civil discourse. You know, the best ideas usually arise out of conflict, as well as the strongest relationships. As such, I hope that you do not form an echo chamber around you, Riley. You're a very sweet girl, and I would enjoy talking to you again in the future. Cheers.